Hello, everyone. Welcome to the another episode of Product Management Interview Experience. I am Sugat, Product Manager at Meta, and today we have Sunit, who has recently joined Microsoft as a Senior Product Manager. Welcome, Sunit.
Yes, I
So, I know we have already covered an interview experience of Microsoft few years back of a principal product manager. If you haven't checked that, do or feel free to check that out. But today's interview experience gonna be completely different because we know that within a same company we have multiple teams whose hiring process can be very different. So that's when I thought, hey, it's worth taking another stab at knowing the interview experience of someone with a different experience, different level, and let's hear from Sunit itself how the interview experience was. Before deep diving into it, if you're here for the first time, I create product management content related to hiring experience and how you can break into product management. So do check out some of my past videos and don't forget to hit the subscribe button. So without any further ado, let's get started. Sunit, why don't you go ahead and introduce yourself to the audience?
thanks, Sugat. Thank you for this opportunity to speak to your audience. And it's let me tell you, it's a complete honor. And so I'll just get started with my introduction. So I'm Sunit Acharya, and I recently joined Microsoft as a senior product manager for the AI ERP within Microsoft, which is called Dynamics 365. And prior to that, I used to be a part of Atlassian, where I was a product manager for the enterprise and commerce tech team. And I've spent most of my career at Atlassian, like almost 3.5 years. And prior to that, I was a product manager at Oracle, where I worked with NetSuite Financials and Suite Tax. And prior to that, I was at TCS, where I was in a consulting role, technology consulting. And then that was literally my first job. And in terms of formal education, I am an engineer by background in information technology from Heritage Institute of Technology in Kolkata. So that's a little bit about me. Now, if you want to know anything specific, please feel free to ask those questions.
Interesting. I think would love to hear, how was your transition from TCS to Oracle from a consultant to a product role? I think that might be very much interesting to know about your that journey. So why don't you expand on that?
Sure. So basically, what I was doing at PCS is I was working on a product for NetSuite. So I was on the consulting side of things, where I was talking to clients, getting requirements, giving it out to developers, doing all the documentation, and basically being the bridge between the technical and the functional side. But then I was more into the functional side of things and did not really like the coding piece of it, even though I did it for a few, like 6-7 months. But after which I moved into that role where I was a functional consultant for my clients. And then this opportunity came in when Oracle was actually hiring for NetSuite resources, right? And NetSuite was a product that Oracle acquired in 2016. So post an acquisition, they were looking to expand their team in India, and they were hiring in Hyderabad, and that's where I got this opportunity. And there, the role was a consulting product manager kind of role. So it's like 50% of your time you will be consulting with customers, and the rest 50% you will work on product developments. And basically, it was a role where you could in the future can move into the product management side, or if you want to stay in consulting, you can stay in the consulting team. So it was all a part of the same business unit. So which really helped, and I think it was around 7 to 8 months post which I got the opportunity to do the product management job full time, and worked on my first product, which was Suite Tax, which is basically a tax engine for their for NetSuite ERP. So basically, any tax calculations across any transactions within NetSuite happens through that engine, and I was a part of that. I was one of the 5 members in India who were a part of that team, and that's where basically my product management journey started. Because only after I stepped into Oracle is when I understood what product managers actually do because I was talking to them day in and out, and how they kind of prioritize new features and decide which ones to go first, and that was very intriguing to me. And that's when I started reading out on all the content and looking up how product management is and how is it as a career, and can I take it forward. And I think Oracle supported me all the way. And yeah, I think that's where my movement from consulting to product management happened.
Interesting, and thanks a lot for sharing that. I think just to share it with the wider audience, I think generally the PM hirings happen in two ways. Either you are a domain expert or you have a very good product management skills. So it's more of a mix of both. And sometimes if a domain knowledge is required, then you get even hired for the PM roles. And that's what happened with Sunit here when he has an expertise into particular domain, which eventually helped in breaking into this PM journey.
Yeah, absolutely.
Awesome. Let's keep moving, and would love to hear your entire interview experience at Microsoft. Tell us, in detail, how does you even landed up getting that interview call? What were the different rounds? The kind of questions asked. So, would love to know in as much detail as possible. So,
Sure, absolutely. It's a very great, interesting story actually. So what happened is I had a friend back in TCS who is actually working as a consultant at Microsoft for some of their other product. I think Azure. So I basically reached out to him and said, I found an opening for a VM which kind of aligns with what I do today. And he put in the referral. I kind of followed up with the hiring manager and said, yes, this is a good profile. We will move ahead. And so it was around September last year is when I applied on the portal. And then interestingly, I actually was not in India when the interviews were happening. So I was on my
okay.
honeymoon. I was in the UK. I was traveling between London and Scotland. So I was in Glasgow when the call came up to me. So since they could not reach me over the phone, it was a WhatsApp call that the recruiter did and said, I'm from Microsoft and we had this, we want to interview you and stuff. And I was like, but I'm actually outside and I will not be back in India, not before 2 weeks from now. And they were like, no, I don't think we can do 2 weeks. Maybe 1 week is fine. I was like, okay, let me figure it out. But then luckily, I was like basically coming back to my brother's place in London, where I could kind of, I needed a setup for interviews, right? Because you need to ramp up and need to do some studying. So it was on a Monday, and it was, I think Sunday evening is when I kind of drove back to London and kind of did some revision of, PM craft and questions that they might ask. And and it happened very quickly. Like it was like the first. So I had three rounds first, and then the partner round in the end. So basically 4 rounds. Not talking about the recruiting's recruiter rounds, but specifically for the craft and technical rounds, there were only 4 rounds, and 3 of them happened within 3 days. Right. So Monday was the first round, and on Wednesday it was. In the morning it was the second round, and by the evening it was the third round. So in a matter of 3 days, I had 3 interviews.
What did happen in the recruiter call? If you can share some things about those.
Yeah. So basically, they were like, it was normal call, like, so we would like to interview you, and we've got your referral, and just what's your availability? That's it. Right. So how it worked is, so what she said was, you will have these 3 rounds, and then we'll take a pause. We gather the feedback, and only then we'll move you to the final round. So these 3 rounds I'm guessing, probably will happen for everyone, all the roles, right? And then they'll make a decision and then move forward to the final round. So that's, yeah. So basically, that's how it was. And then are we okay to move ahead to the first round?
Absolutely. Please get started with the round one, and yeah.
Sure. So yes. So the first round, like I said, it was the group product manager who took the first round. And so basically, since it's the first round and he's the sponsor for this role, or maybe the one who has opened up this role, So he wanted to basically. At the end of the interview, what I really understood is like he really wanted to know how good of a PM you are, and how good of a or how good domain expertise do you have in finance
Point.
and fintech? Because Dynamics is a product which has like a lot of products inside it. So finance is one product, supply chain is one product, marketing, commerce. So since most of my experience was with finance, so he basically wanted to know what are the core flows in finance that you've worked with, like let's say commerce or accounts receivables. How do you describe the whole quote to cash cycle, right? From
Right.
from getting a sales order to converting it to an invoice and collecting the money and putting it into the bank, right? And how have you done it with the ERP or the previous products that you've worked with, like NetSuite and Atlassian? How was your experience? So it was basically starting off with the interviews. I'm sorry, the introductions, and then he asked about some core deliverables that I've done in the past, and how much of a finance overlap you have, right? Working with engineering, and how was the ratio with the number of engineers to the number of PMs in your company? And so I basically answered that based on my previous experience at Atlassian and Oracle, and also asked about the different workflows that you have in finance, like not just the receivable side of it, also the payable side of it, and in terms of PM craft, what are your what kind of brainstorming do you do with your team or with your fellow PMs in the team? And typically you would answer these with basically you have to be frank, right? You have to talk about what your experience was so that he can or the interviewer can gather exactly how much have you worked with product in terms of customer facing products, in terms of prioritization, let's say multiple features or competing features. How do you go ahead? How do you decide? And who do you take inputs from? Right. So basically, team structure. Uh, and he also asked me about the core deliverable that you have done in the past year, let's say. And I would talk about one big rollout that we did for India. So there was a new tax that we were applying for Atlassian in India. And we kind of expanded over it. Like it was a 6-month project. And how do you move through the 6 months, right? What are the people that you had to convince? What are how do you talk to the engineering managers? How did you convince them that you have to do this despite having other needs, right? So these are the sample question. I think that's pretty much standard in every PM interview, I guess. Maybe you will know of it. So yeah, I think that was pretty much the summary of the first round. Little bit of touching up on everything that you have in your series. Plus, how have you worked in the past, right? So it was not behavioral at all. So it was all based on what I've done so far, right?
Correct.
So yeah, that's pretty much how the first round went. And by the first round, I was relatively confident that I could answer at least 90% of it. But then I was looking forward to the next rounds. Like I said, there were like 3 rounds, and I've never had an experience like this where within 3 days you have 3 rounds of interviews. So I was looking forward to the rest as well. And so are we good to move to the next round?
Absolutely. I think so many insightful things you shared. I think let's keep moving to the upcoming rounds.
Sure. So the next round was principal PM. Who's interviewing me, and he's been been in Microsoft for almost 5 years, and so he was a really good interviewer, and it was a very good and it did not even feel like an interview at that point. So it was a very smooth round where he talked about my core finance knowledge, in terms of tax, like I told you about. So I think in my whole experience, I do have a lot of overlap with tax. So in terms of taxation, right, indirect taxes, and tax technology, like the tax engine that I talked about an hour ago, which was Sugat Tax, and even in Atlassian. So I was the PM of a product that's called Tax as a Service. So it's a
Mhm.
moment I chose because nobody. So if you ask somebody of all the finance areas, which one do you want to take? Nobody will say tax. So this is something that I personally picked up, and I do have a lot of expertise with tax technology. I can say that today. So he was very interested to know about all that, and the different regions that I enabled in terms of the new jurisdictions in Canada, new type of taxes that are coming up in India, Turkey, lots of countries. So we covered a lot of bases on that, and he was more interested because he also used to work on taxes. Just spoken very
Mhm.
good conversation where we talk about taxation and again the standard stuff like if you were working on this, how many engineers do you actually require, and uh, were you able to convince your group product manager or your engineering manager to do, let's say, A instead of B when they were asking you to do B, right? And that becomes a very tricky situation when you have to talk to the finance business. You have to make sure your engineers are also aligned. And one good thing I really learned out of my experience at Atlassian was you have to have a very good relationship with your engineers, right? So if you have them on your side, things become very easy in terms of deliveries, in terms of testing, in terms of overall end-to-end.
Yep.
And we also talked about a few major deliverables that I've done here for the last 3 years, and it was a pretty smooth and comfortable interview. And I'm really happy at the end of the interview that okay, uh, after a long while, it was a very good interview that I've given, and I was pretty
Right.
confident that this is going well, right?
Right.
And then moving on to the last round of the initial cheese set round. So this was another person from US, and so she was a tenured PM at Microsoft, like almost
Mm.
80 plus years.
Oh,
So she was also principal PM lead, I guess. Yeah. So her interview was a bit different. So what she asked was all behavioral, like, what would you do
mm.
in so and so scenarios? Like, tell me about a time questions, right? Or
Yeah.
so basically, he asked me around things about diversity, inclusion. Have you faced any scenarios where you had to exhibit those qualities? And and there were some scenarios which she put in where uh, which explains like you have stakeholders on one side, you have some competing priorities on the other side, and you have two different stakeholders who are of equal, let's say, levels, and they have asked you to do
Okay.
something. How do you choose which one to do first? And then you have to I think the answer that I did was I would look into the capability or the feature request that's more aligned to our company vision, right? And if it's not really aligned to our company vision, I'd really, deprioritize it for now. And I also kind of,
Okay.
get into a call with the stakeholder to explain to them why I'm not doing it, right? Because if you're also not doing it, you have to make sure and communication is is pretty key for PMs, I would say, because I guess that's around 40% of our job to communicate well, right? You have to communicate why you're not doing this or why you are doing this, right? You have to make sure everybody is aligned or everybody is on the same page about uh, why you do want to do a certain thing in a certain way or at a certain time. Uh, because
Correct.
what happens is I've seen in my field experiences, like we do a lot of fast follows. We promise a lot of fast follows. Let's say some stakeholder asked for a capability A, and I said, yeah, I will do it, but maybe not in the next sprint. Maybe 3 months from now, maybe 4 months from now. And sometimes what happens is what happens is with changes in the environment, changes in the economy, you might have to prioritize something over the other, and eventually things do get pushed out. So we also have to be mindful of not pushing things out to an extent where it loses the importance of doing it. So yeah, so tell you scenario based questions and tell me about a time questions were the main focus of the third round. And it was also like it also went well. I would not say it had any questions which I could not answer. But again, for behavioral questions, there is no right answer, right? You have to make
Yeah.
sure that you are answering to the best of your ability, and you're being true to yourself. I think that's what you would. I think that's what they're actually looking for, right? If you're true to yourself, if you're not just speaking, or if you're not talking about an answer or a question or a scenario that you just made up, right? Uh, because that's also
Yep.
easy to do. So you have to make sure that you're being true to yourself. You're answering based on your experiences only, right? So yeah, I think that's how it went. The third round, and the recruiter reached out to me and said, "Yes, we've concluded for now, and we'll get back to you once we have the
Okay.
feedback." And I think that took a long time. I think
Okay.
that took almost 2 weeks, and by
Okay.
then I was back in India, and that's when the recruiter called me up again, and I was like following up once every week, and
Yeah.
that's how I follow up, like on Friday or Thursday at the end of the week. Every week I would send out an email saying, do you have any updates to share, anything that I can help you with, so things like that. And that's when I get a call from the recruiter saying that we want to move ahead with the partner round. So basically, it would be a
Okay.
partner as Microsoft. Uh, so partner would be similar to a head of for
Okay.
as Microsoft. Yeah. So and she's the owner of the whole finance portfolio. And so in her interview, that was also another interesting interview because I did not really know what to prepare. And the recruiter said, I think you're technically now the concluded, so we would not say to not do anything, but maybe just prepare just like you did for any other round,
Yeah.
because you never know. Like the last round or a partner round usually is a bit tricky, and you can't really prepare for it. Right? You have to. It'll be
Okay.
a straight, give you a straight interview. Right? So that's how it is. And so then the fourth round happened with the partner, and it was a very good conversation with her, where she talked about. She asked me about, again, your major launches, or what are your, what is the highest impact that you've made? What are the number of users did your post make this change having impact on, right? Let's say 100 users or 200 users, something like that. So she was looking into metrics. What kind of metrics do you look at before you decide to do something, and also measuring your success post launch. So those were like some very interesting questions that she asked. So I did talk about two major releases. And one release was actually around that time when I was interviewing. So I had some very fresh examples in mind, which I could share. And after the launches, like how do you measure success, and do you still stick to the same metrics that you did before you launched and after it? And then you have to kind of explain that yes, sometimes we do kind of look into other metrics as well, which you would not know before you launch, right? No, because that because we have a lot of sources from where we get the data, right? Like in terms of product telemetry, in terms of usage data, monthly active users, daily active users, and number of transactions. So based on your domain, right? So in my domain, the number of transactions is a big indicator of how many transactions are being processed in a day. So things like that. And she also asked me about some instances where convincing stakeholders was not easy. So she did ask me about an example from your experience where where you tried to convince someone but you failed. and I fortunately did have one example like that where I did fail in convincing a particular stakeholder about the priority of doing a particular change. So she was not against doing it. It was just that we are asked for we do that, and uh, and that's where and how did you get out of it eventually? So so eventually, the stakeholder was not really convinced, and then it almost took me close to a month, close to a month or so, to kind of explain to them using data and usage records in the past, saying, okay, so if we do this, we do have a fair shot at kind of getting external engagement or converting so and so customers and improving our throughput overall. So well, things were when these were kind of the focus of the first round, where it was like I said, like it did not feel like an interview at all in the first round because uh, she made me very comfortable at the beginning of the interview that don't worry, I'm not going to drill you, but it's just going to be a simple conversation about your past and how do you want to look at Microsoft in the future and things like that. So, and I think that happened around November, sometime in November last year. And again, there was a big pause before I I got to know whether they're going to take any further interviews or if I can fill it out or uh, the recruiter had I mean there were times where I had to kind of had to call her up to kind of get some updates because there's not really getting responses over emails. I think it took another 2 weeks to kind of for her to come back because what happens is there's a for in the recruiting teams you would have a recruiter, you would have some vendors who kind of schedule the calls for you, right? So there were like multiple level of people, and then I actually reached out to the actual recruiter and not the people who actually are call schedulers, right? Because they do not have a lot of information, which the request. And I reached out to her, and then she said, and what happened is she kind of kept me in the dark about whether I'd moved or not, right? Because of how the email is usually structured is they'll only say yes, I need this and this details, and she'll not even tell me that okay, you have passed or you have cleared the rounds, you're moving ahead. She just asked me for my details and where what's the current company name, salary, blah blah blah, right? And then that's it. And then I did ask her like have I cleared it or not? And then she's like. I mean, I would want to give you the news, but I'm just waiting on a few approvals here and there, and I'll let you know. So I think it was around December is when I was
Okay.
told that yes, we are going ahead with the offer. You have to provide so and so details, and I think it was around 22nd December is when I got the offer for the senior
Awesome.
PM role. Yeah.
Awesome.
So
Awesome.
yeah,
Thanks a
that's
lot.
that's how the experience was.
This is wonderful. This is wonderful. And thanks a lot for sharing your entire, experience in such a detailed way. Not only the timeline, the kind of questions, but you also helped us understood how the kind of answers that we should also give. Uh, and pretty valid, right? I just have few follow-up questions. And like when the call came to you for Microsoft, what was in your mind about the preparation part of it, right? The kind of curiosity, or how did you even prepare yourself in a very short span of time?
True. I've recently done a course from Kellogg, which
Okay.
was a product management course. So I mean, not recently. I think it ended around 2022. So I did have some content over there. So I used to practice. I used to did that course to kind of get an idea about how what is the industry trend or what are the faculties at good colleges talking about when they think about product management, right? So I usually am in touch and with the group that I had back then. I do keep following product management content from like with the like Reputed. PMs like you and others who are on these platforms. And what I view is like the basic PM draft questions are not going to change, right? And I also and I also give interviews in other companies like Miro, Google, where I have had the sense of, how the PM draft questions are today, right? In terms of, how to improve a product and, how many data success and stuff like that. So those questions I had on a note on my laptop. So I was carrying my laptop, luckily back then. So I just had to review them. But I also knew that there would be some, core domain questions as well, like mixed link.
Correct.
Because the
Yeah.
hiring trends have also changed a bit in the recent times for PMs. They will look, so if you work in commerce, they will look for a commerce PM to fill that role, right? If you're
Yeah.
in finance, they would look for somebody who's already worked in fintech, and that's how you're prioritized for that role. And in terms of my preparation, I think I just had to look up a few basic finance essays and process flows so that I'm following the flows at least, because that's standard across
Mm.
any ERP, any
Right.
any fintech that you go to. So the preparation part, like thinking about what questions could come in, was not really hard. But I think only after the first round that I gave in, right, with the GPM, that's when things become clearer. Okay, this is the type of thing, because you have to utilize that 5 minutes of time that you get at the end of the interview, where you are asked, where you are given the opportunity to ask questions. And I think I utilize
Correct.
that well about the team structure, what kind of people are you looking for, right? So I think that kind of as I went through the interview rounds, it was it definitely helped me to kind of get that sense or the mindset of the interviewers, or what are they looking for.
Awesome. Uh, Before we wind up the video, any final tips for aspirants who really want to break into product management at Microsoft?
Yeah, sure. I think so. In terms of PM, right? PM as a role, I think I would say I see a lot of aspirants who actually wants to move into product management, who kind of thought they will not be able to do it just because they don't have an MBA. And given the hiring trends today, I've seen examples, and maybe I can also give an example where I will not say you don't need an MBA, but definitely an MBA helps. But what companies are looking for is the core product knowledge and PM craft, PM skills. If you can master that, you will be able to crack interviews, right? Because you study for the exam directly. You don't have to study for you know you don't have to study a 2-year MBA course where you're taught finance, marketing, and PM. I'm not sure if PM recently came into the curriculum or not, but let's say 5 years back, PM was not being taught in any proper MBA college, right? It was always a course that you would have to do, an executive course, right? And I think keep trying. I think that's what I did. I looked up all the resources that I could from top tier experts. To follow the kind of products or the PM knowledge that you can find on LinkedIn, and top curators who kind of obvious write blogs about how they have improved the product and given interviews. So I think all that experience and also Sugat, right, like how he kind of explains or reviews, right? I think all those will really help to kind of create that muscle where you can answer interview questions for product manager roles. Uh, so you need to answer the questions that are asked in the interviews, right? So study for that. You don't have to think about, oh no, maybe I don't have this degree or maybe I don't have that degree, right? So I think all that is not important based on the hiring trend today. Right? I obviously agree that there was a time where yes, we only hired from colleges, top MBA colleges, and you really did not have any other way. But yes, if you can gather that experience, if you do have that product mindset, and also bring in product thinking to your everyday products that you use, right? So anything from a simple mouse to a software product or an app on your phone. I think everything is very relevant. Think about let's say if you the point where you update an app on your phone, you look into the change logs, right? Look at what
True.
changed
Yeah.
from the last update to this, right? I think that's where a product manager has kind of written those notes, right? I think it will be a PM on the other side who has posted all those notes, and I think I used to follow that. I mean, I did not know I was doing it as a PM, but maybe long back, I think it's even before I came into the corporate world. I used to look at how when I'm updating an app on my phone, okay, something has changed, right? Like back when WhatsApp did not have calling function, and then they have added calls,
Yeah.
they have added statuses, right? So simple things that you do every day. I think there's a lot to learn, right? You just have to uh, be open to kind of receiving, and just keep analyzing, be curious, about everything that's happening. So yeah, I think that would be my my takeaway, and that's what I would want to share with everyone.
Awesome. It was lovely chatting with you, Sunit, and getting to know you, your journey so far, and how you cracked the Microsoft interview. I hope folks who are still watching in there, you might find it valuable. And if so, please share it among your peers so that anyone watching this might, get help in cracking their PM interviews. Until then, thank you so much and stay tuned for many upcoming videos. Bye.
Bye. Thank you.